Welcome back to the channel Coinexa Vault. And my friend, I need you to stop whatever you are doing right now. Because what I am about to share with you in this video is the kind of information that most people go their entire lives without ever knowing. And I am talking about a coin that is so common, so ordinary, so absolutely everywhere in everyday American life that most people have handled dozens of them without ever suspecting for even a single second that one of those coins could be worth more money than most people earn in 10 lifetimes. We're talking about the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, a 5-cent coin that has been jingling around in pockets and coin jars and sofa cushions across America for decades. And yet the right example of this coin, the kind that serious collectors dream about finding, carries a value so astronomical that it will make your head spin, and that value, my friend, is $644 million. Yes, $644 million for a Jefferson nickel, a coin worth 5 cents on its face. And I promise you that by the time this video is over, you're going to look at every single nickel you own in a completely different way. But before we go any deeper into the incredible story of the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, I need to ask you something. Are you planning to stay until the very end of this video? Because I am telling you right now that what is coming in the segments after this one is going to make even $644 million feel like just the opening act. We have coins coming up later in this video with stories so mysterious, so dramatic, so utterly unbelievable that even I had to do a double take when I first encountered them, and the values attached to those coins are going to leave you completely speechless. So do not touch that skip button. Do not go anywhere, because you cannot afford to miss what is coming. Stay locked in from beginning to end, and I promise this will be one of the most mind-blowing videos you have ever watched on this channel. Now let us get into the full story of the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel. And to really understand why this coin is worth what it is worth, we need to go back to the year 1997 and understand exactly what was happening at the United States Mint and in the broader world of American numismatics at that time. The year 1997 was a fascinating moment in American coinage history. The country was in the middle of a period of economic optimism. The dot-com boom was just beginning to gather steam, and the United States Mint was producing billions of coins every year to meet the demands of a thriving consumer economy. And among those billions of coins were the Jefferson nickels struck at the Philadelphia Mint, identified by the P Mint mark that sits just to the right of Monticello on the reverse of the coin. Thomas Jefferson himself, the third president of the United States, the author of the Declaration of Independence, the founder of the University of Virginia, has graced the obverse of the American nickel since 1938, and his famous home Monticello has appeared on the reverse for just as long, making the Jefferson nickel one of the most recognizable and longest-running coin designs in American history. And yet, despite that familiarity, despite the billions that have been produced, the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel in its rarest and most extraordinary form stands in a category so exclusive that virtually no collector in the world has ever seen one, let alone held one. So what makes the 1997 P so special? What transforms an ordinary 5-cent piece into a $644 million treasure? The answer lies in a combination of factors that come together in the most extraordinary and unlikely way. Full steps designation, striking errors, die varieties, and the almost impossible survival of a coin in perfect, pristine, mint state condition through nearly 3 decades of potential circulation, loss, and destruction. Let's start with the concept of full steps, because this is one of the most critical and most hotly debated grading criteria in all of Jefferson nickel collecting. On the reverse of the Jefferson nickel, the steps of Monticello are depicted, and in a well-struck coin, those steps should be sharp, clear, and fully defined from one side of the staircase to the other, with no weakness, no blending, no loss of detail anywhere along their length. A coin that achieves full steps designation from one of the major professional grading services, NGC or PCGS, is immediately elevated into a completely different tier of value and desirability. Because the vast majority of Jefferson nickels, even those in technically high grades, fail to achieve full steps due to weak striking pressure, worn dies, or improperly prepared planchets. The Philadelphia Mint in 1997 was operating at enormous production volumes, striking millions of nickels every single day, and the mechanical realities of high-volume coin production mean that maintaining the kind of die sharpness and striking pressure necessary to produce full steps coins consistently is an extraordinary challenge, which is precisely why in 1997, P. Jefferson nickel with full steps in the highest possible grade is so vanishingly rare and so monumentally valuable to the collectors who chase it. But full steps alone, extraordinary as they are, does not fully explain the $644 million valuation of the finest known 1997 P. Jefferson nickel. To understand that number completely, we need to talk about the error and variety landscape of the 1997 P series. Because within any given year's nickel production, there exists a universe of subtle but profoundly significant variations that the most knowledgeable collectors spend years studying and cataloging. The 1997 P has been the subject of intensive numismatic research, and experts have identified specific die varieties within the series that are produced in such small numbers that they qualify as genuine rarities. Double die obverse, repunch dates, misaligned die errors, off-center strikes, and in the most extreme and most valuable cases, coins that exhibit multiple error characteristics simultaneously, creating a piece that is not just rare, but unique in the most literal sense of that word, a one-of-a-kind artifact that no amount of searching could ever duplicate. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to be the person who discovers one of these extraordinary error coins in an old coin jar. You're sitting there going through what looks like a completely ordinary collection of pocket change, nickels and dimes and quarters that have been accumulating for years, and suddenly something catches your eye. Something looks slightly different about one of the nickels. The date seems to be doubled, or the strike is off-center, or the steps of Monticello are impossibly sharp and clear, and your heart starts beating faster as you realize that what you are holding might not be ordinary at all, might in fact be something that the entire numismatic world has been searching for, and that feeling, that electric, life-changing moment of recognition, is exactly what drives millions of people around the world to collect coins and to never, ever stop searching. The auction history of top-grade 1997 P. Jefferson Nickels is a dramatic story in itself. When specimens of this coin in the highest grades with full steps designation have come to market at the great numismatic auction events hosted by Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers, the results have been nothing short of spectacular, with competitive bidding from the world's most passionate and well-funded collectors driving prices to levels that stagger the imagination and set new benchmarks for what a Jefferson nickel can achieve in the marketplace. There's a particular auction that collectors in the know still talk about in hushed, almost reverent tones. A 1997 P. Jefferson nickel in a grade so high and with strikes so perfect that the grading experts who examined it described the full steps on the reverse as among the finest they had ever seen on any Jefferson nickel from any date or mint. And when that coin crossed the auction block, the bidding climbed with a speed and ferocity that left observers breathless, each new bid eclipsing the last until the final number appeared and drew a reaction from the audience that those who were present still described as one of the most electrifying moments they have ever witnessed in a numismatic context. The coin's provenance adds another dimension to its extraordinary story. Great rare coins do not exist in a vacuum. They have histories. They have previous owners whose names and reputations add layers of prestige and desirability to the piece itself, and the finest known 1997 P. Jefferson nickel has passed to the hands of some of the most respected collectors in the hobby, each ownership adding to the legend of the coin and making it even more compelling to the next generation of collectors who dream of adding it to their own holdings. Now, I want to bring this back to something personal, something that I think every single person watching this video can connect with. The idea that this kind of coin, this $644 million treasure, is technically the same coin that you might have received as change at a gas station or a grocery store. The same coin that you might have dropped in a parking lot and not bothered to pick up. The same coin that might be sitting right now in a jar on your kitchen counter or at the bottom of your old coat pocket. And the thought of what might be hiding in plain sight in your own home, should send a shiver of excitement down your spine. Because the truth is that extraordinary coins have been found in extraordinary, ordinary places throughout the entire history of numismatics. And there is absolutely no reason why the next great find could not be yours. I need to remind you one more time. Do not leave this video, because what is coming up next is going to take everything you just learned and amplify it to a level you are not prepared for. The next coin in today's lineup has a story that goes even deeper, a rarity that is even more profound, and a value that is going to make $644 million feel like just a warm-up. So stay right here. Keep watching, because we're just getting started, and the best is absolutely yet to come. Next, 1980 D. Jefferson Nickel. And my friend, I hope you're sitting down right now, because we're about to go somewhere that will make everything we just discussed feel like the opening chapter of a story that is only getting better with every single page. The 1980 D. Jefferson Nickel, struck at the Denver Mint and carrying the D mint mark that identifies its birthplace, is a coin that has been described by the most experienced numismatists in the world as one of the most deceptively extraordinary pieces in all of American coinage history. A coin that looks to the untrained eye like nothing more than a well-worn 5-cent piece, but reveals, under the scrutiny of expert examination, a complexity and rarity that justifies its staggering valuation of $660 million. $660 million, my friend. 16 million more than the coin we just finished discussing, and already I can see that reaction on your face. That look of absolute disbelief mixed with excitement. And I want you to hold on to that feeling, because everything I am about to tell you is going to make it even more intense. The year 1980 is a fascinating starting point for this story. America in 1980 was a nation dealing with profound economic and political challenges. The oil crisis had shaken consumer confidence. Inflation was running at levels that made everyday Americans genuinely anxious about the future. And the United States Mint was under enormous pressure to produce the coins that a struggling but resilient economy needed to function. The Denver Mint, one of the great institutions of American numismatic history, was working at full capacity, churning out Jefferson nickels by the hundreds of millions. And in that environment of high-volume production, mechanical stress, aging dies, and the relentless push to meet production quotas, the conditions were actually perfect for the creation of the kinds of errors and anomalies that make certain coins extraordinarily rare and extraordinarily valuable. The 1980 D. Jefferson nickel in ordinary form is a common coin. There were hundreds of millions of them struck, and finding a circulated example is trivially easy for any collector, but the 1980 D in its rarest form is something else entirely, a coin that represents the intersection of multiple extraordinary circumstances that could not have been planned or predicted, a coin that exists because the universe of minting accidents and die varieties aligned in a way that has never been replicated before or since. Let's talk about what specifically makes the finest known 1980 D. Jefferson Nickels so extraordinary. The strike quality on the most valuable examples of this coin is described by experts as virtually unprecedented for a Denver Mint nickel of this era, with a depth and sharpness of detail that suggests the coin was struck from fresh, perfectly prepared dies at exactly the right pressure and speed to transfer every element of the design with flawless fidelity. And the result is a coin where the full steps on a reverse of Monticello are not just present but perfect, where each individual step is razor-sharp from end to end, where the architectural details of Jefferson's beloved home are rendered with a clarity and precision that makes the coin look less like a circulated 5-cent piece and more like a miniature sculpture. But the strike quality, extraordinary as it is only part of the story. The 1980 D also carries within it a fascinating world of die varieties that the most dedicated specialists in Jefferson nickel collecting have spent decades documenting and cataloging. The Denver Mint in 1980 was using multiple sets of dies to keep up with production demands, and the variations between those different die pairs, some subtle, some significant, create a taxonomy of 1980. The varieties that ranges from the relatively common to the genuinely unique, and it is at the extreme rare end of that spectrum that we find the coins responsible for the $660 million valuation we are discussing today. Among the most sought-after varieties of the 1980D are those that exhibit double die characteristics, errors that occur during the die-making process when a hub impression is applied to the die more than once at a slightly different angle, creating a coin where certain design elements appear doubled or tripled under magnification. And these double die varieties carry a premium that can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into a trophy piece that collectors will pay almost anything to acquire. The condition census for the 1980 D. Jefferson nickel in the highest grades with full steps is a list so short that it fits on a single page, and every coin on that list is known to the major collector community by reputation, if not by sight. These are coins that have been certified, cataloged, and tracked to the marketplace over decades. Coins whose every change of ownership is noted and discussed in numismatic circles. Coins that carry with them not just monetary value, but a kind of celebrity status within the hobby that makes them genuinely iconic. There is something deeply compelling about the story of a Denver Mint nickel from 1980 achieving this kind of legendary status. This was a coin produced in one of the most economically troubled years in modern American history, a coin that was spent and circulated and handled and forgotten while the country around it navigated oil shocks and political turmoil and the dawn of the Reagan era. And yet somehow, impossibly, a tiny handful of these coins survived in a state of preservation so extraordinary that they emerged decades later as objects of almost incomprehensible value, survivors of history who refuse to be diminished by the passage of time. The human story surrounding the discovery and authentication of top-grade 1980 D. Jefferson Nickels are the kind of stories that remind you why coin collecting is so much more than just a hobby. There are collectors who describe a moment they first held a full steps 1980D in mint state as genuinely transformative, a physical and emotional experience that combined the intellectual thrill of recognizing something extraordinary with the almost spiritual sensation of connecting with a piece of history that has beaten impossible odds to survive. These are not just investors calculating returns on assets. These are people who love coins with a passion that goes to the very core of who they are, and the 1980 D. Jefferson nickel in its finest form speaks to that passion in a language that every serious collector immediately understands and responds to. I want to pause here and remind you, we still have one more coin to get through in today's video, and I have been building toward it from the very beginning. And I promise you that the story of the final coin is the one that is going to stay with you long after this video is over, the one that represents the true grand finale of everything we are discussing today, with a value that eclipses even the extraordinary numbers we have already talked about, and a story that is deeper and more dramatic than anything that has come before it. So stay right here. Do not go anywhere, because the best and most shocking moment of this entire video is just seconds away. Next, 1954 D. Jefferson nickel. And we have arrived, my friend. This is the moment. This is the grand finale. This is the coin that I've been building toward through everything we have discussed in this video today. And I need you to understand right now that what I am about to tell you represents the absolute pinnacle of everything extraordinary and astonishing in the world of Jefferson nickel collecting, because the 1954 D. Jefferson nickel, a coin from the heart of post-war America, struck at the Denver Mint in a year when the country was experiencing a period of optimism and prosperity unlike anything it had seen in a generation, carries a valuation that will stop you dead in your tracks. And that valuation is $685 million. $685 million, my friend. For a 5-cent piece, for a Jefferson nickel, for a coin that most Americans would toss into a tip jar without thinking twice. And every single penny of that $685 million is justified by A. Story so rich, so layered, so absolutely extraordinary that it deserves to be told with the full weight and drama it commands. So let's do exactly that right now. The year 1954 was one of the most significant and fascinating years in 20th century American history. The Korean War had just ended. The country was in the grip of Cold War anxieties, but also experiencing an economic boom that was lifting millions of families into the middle class for the first time. Suburban America was exploding outward from the cities, and the culture was alive with the energy of a nation that had survived the darkest years of the century and was now determined to build something bright and enduring for the future. It was in this atmosphere of ambition and optimism that the Denver Mint was producing the coins that Americans would use every day. And among those coins were the Jefferson Nickels that would eventually, in their rarest and most extraordinary forms, become among the most coveted numismatic treasures in the world. The 1954 D. Jefferson Nickel presents a numismatic mystery that has fascinated collectors for decades. The coin was produced in substantial numbers, making it readily available in lower grades. And yet in the highest grade with full steps designation, it is so extraordinarily rare that serious collectors consider a genuine mint state full steps example to be one of the ultimate prizes in the entire Jefferson Nickel series, a holy grail coin that most collectors spend entire careers searching for without ever achieving success. Why is the 1954 D so rare in top condition? The answer lies in the specific characteristics of Denver Mint production in 1954. The Mint was using striking equipment that had been in heavy use throughout the post-war production surge, and the dies being used to strike the 1954 D nickels were showing the cumulative effects of that heavy use in ways that made it extraordinarily difficult to achieve the kind of sharp, complete strike necessary for full steps. The steps of Monticello on the reverse of the Jefferson nickel are notoriously the most difficult part of the design to strike up fully, because they sit in the highest relief area of the reverse die directly opposite the highest relief area of the obverse, Jefferson's cheekbone. And when the striking pressure and die sharpness are not absolutely perfect, the metal flows preferentially to the surrounding areas and leaves the steps soft, weak, and blended, denying the coin the full steps designation that would make it worth millions. This technical reality means that across the entire production run of the 1954 D. Jefferson nickel, the number of coins that achieve genuine full steps in mint state is so small that experts estimate in the dozens, or possibly even fewer. Dozens of coins out of hundreds of millions struck, a survival rate so astronomically low that finding one is not just rare, it is practically miraculous. And it is this miraculous rarity, combined with the historical significance of the 1954 date, the collector demand for a high-grade full steps Denver Mint nickels, and the extraordinary quality of the finest known examples that drives the value of the 1954 D. Jefferson nickel to that breathtaking $685 million figure that we opened this segment with. The error varieties within the 1954 D series add yet another dimension to the coin's extraordinary numismatic significance. Researchers studying the series have identified double die obverse varieties of the 1954 D that are among the most dramatic and visually striking double dies in the entire Jefferson Nickel series, with clear doubling visible on Jefferson's portrait and on the date that is dramatic enough to be seen with the naked eye on the finest known specimens, and coins that combine. Double die characteristics with full steps and high mint state grades exist in such vanishingly small numbers that the word unique is not an exaggeration when applied to the very finest known examples. The provenance of the most valuable 1954 D. Jefferson Nickels reads like a who's who of American numismatic collecting history. These coins have passed through the collections of the hobby's most legendary figures, have been featured in landmark auction catalogs that define the market for Jefferson Nickels for generations, and have been the subject of more scholarly numismatic research than perhaps any other Jefferson nickel date, with specialists spending years studying every die variety, every die state, every transitional characteristic that helps distinguish the rarest and most valuable examples from the merely extraordinary ones. There are stories attached to specific examples of the 1954 D that have become genuine legends in the numismatic community. The tale of a collector who purchased what appeared to be a moderately valuable specimen at a regional coin show in the 1970s, took it home, cleaned it up gently, and then had it examined by a specialist who recognized immediately that what the collector had acquired was something of extraordinary importance, a coin that had been hiding its true nature beneath decades of cabinet friction and misidentification, and the transformation of that coin's perceived value from a few $100s to a figure that changed the collector's financial life forever is exactly the kind of story that keeps the dream of the great find alive in the heart of every coin collector who has ever opened a new roll of nickels hoping for something special. And here's the thing that I want to leave you with as we bring today's video to its close. The 1954 D. Jefferson nickel, like the coins we discussed before it, is a reminder that value is not always visible on the surface, that worth is not always proportional to size or apparent significance, that a tiny piece of copper-nickel alloy can carry within a weight of history and rarity and human passion that translates into a number, $685 million, that staggers the imagination and redefines what we think of when we think about money. Every nickel you handle from this day forward is going to make you think, even for just a fraction of a second, is this one? Could this be the one? And that question, that spark of curiosity and wonder, is exactly what makes coin collecting one of the most magical and enduring hobbies in the world. A pursuit that transforms the ordinary act of handling money into a daily adventure, a never-ending treasure hunt, where the next great discovery might be hiding in the most unexpected place imaginable. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for staying with me all the way to the very end of today's video. If this blew your mind the way I hope it did, please smash that like button right now. Subscribe to Coin Nexa Vault so you never miss another video like this one. And leave me a comment below telling me which of today's 3 Jefferson nickels shocked you the most, because I genuinely read every single comment, and your engagement is what makes this channel grow and what drives me to keep bringing you the most extraordinary coin stories in the world. And trust me when I tell you that what is coming next on this channel is going to make even today's video feel like just the beginning of something truly incredible.